Hi, this is Hannah, and today I want to share with you some tips on how I use my iPad Pro, pencil, and Goodnotes as a professional UX designer. If you're a designer and you're either thinking about buying an iPad or have an iPad and want to get more out of it, this is the video for you. So today's tip is about templates. And in Goodnotes, templates are pretty much the background and dimensions of any page in your notebook. So when I go in here and add a new page, what we get here is a list of the templates that initially the ones that come with the app, but you can upload your own. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about how to make and upload your own templates from the beginning. But Graph Papers is one that comes preloaded with the app. You can see here I've got some landscape papers, I've got some horizontal papers. You cannot rotate the templates, so basically when you're making them or picking them, you need to pick the one that is the orientation that you want. So let's say I really like using my iPad in landscape, so I'm going to pick this graph paper landscape. And now I have a page that I can draw or write on. And when I erase, obviously only the content is erased. The background and the page size is kept the same. I can change the template underneath by going in here to more options, change paper template, change. And you see that my content has stayed the same, but the paper underneath it has swapped out. The templates that come with it are okay, but not the best really for design work. And so being a designer, you probably have software that lets you create kind of a layout and then export it as a PNG or PDF. So we're going to jump over to my computer and I'm going to show you how to make your own custom templates for Goodnotes. So now we're over here on my computer. As you can see, I have a Mac. This doesn't require you to have a Mac. In fact, I've seen some videos of people using Keynote on their iPad to create these templates. All you need to do is have some software that exports to a PNG or a PDF. So let's say that you don't have fancy design software, even something as simple as Keynote or PowerPoint, you can drag lines on here. Let's say I want to create something where I have kind of a blank area and then some room to write underneath. As long as you can export to PDF or an image, you're going to be fine. I prefer to use Sketch in most of my stuff, so that's where I've designed most of my templates. And one of the things I want you to see here is that you can be kind of creative with the layout. Because it's a digital format, you don't have to necessarily just think in terms of like an 8.5 by 11, which is kind of the space that is filled by the iPad. I have in here some very long horizontal ones that I can zoom into and then kind of scroll to the right, or very long vertical ones. So here I have some different calendar templates, but you can also have blank ones, which is really helpful when you're taking notes and so that you don't have to keep creating new pages, that you can just kind of have a long note that you are zoomed in on. You'll also note that I have on here both kind of horizontal versions as well as if you wanted to have vertical versions, you would have to kind of create those separately. So on here, if I wanted this artboard to be the opposite, I would just flip that around and now I would have my vertical tan paper. And I would need to export those separately. In terms of the sizing of this, let's say that you just want something standard. If I create an artboard here, Sketch has the size of the iPad Pro in terms of its resolution. So in terms of the aspect ratio, the width and the height, this is good, but if you want, you can actually make it bigger or smaller, and what that's going to impact is the size of the pen on the paper. In Goodnotes, it kind of maxes out the size of your tools, and so if your paper is really small, it's going to make it harder to get smaller lines, and if your paper is too big, it's going to make it hard to get bigger lines.
I'll give you an example to show you what I mean.
So now I've made 3 artboards, one at the default resolution for the iPad, one twice as large, and one half the size. And as I said before, you can basically export any of these as PNG or PDF. I like to export as PDF since it keeps everything in vector. I'm going to keep that background color part of it. So where you want to put this is in some cloud storage. So Dropbox, Google Drive, or iCloud. I'm going to use my Dropbox. I would put it in the root folder, basically because every single template you're going to have to upload independently, and having to dig through folders every single time, it doesn't remember where you last were, so that can be kind of a pain in the butt. So just export it into whatever is the root folder of your Dropbox, Drive, or iCloud. So I'm going to export that here. So now if I go to my Dropbox, so I now have those 3, and it looks like they've uploaded because they're pretty tiny. So now let's switch back onto my iPad, and I'll show you how to get them into Goodnotes for you to use. Okay, so now that our custom templates have been uploaded to Dropbox, we can return to the main menu where we see all of our notebooks. And down here in the bottom right is an area called Options. If we go to Template Library, we'll see all of the templates that are already there. You'll probably just see a bunch of defaults. I've already added some of my own ones here. First thing we'll want to do is basically create your own organizational system. So you'll want to add folders for whatever types of paper you're wanting to import, whatever you made. Here I'll just put demo. The reason that you want to create your folders first is because you can't actually move paper between the folders after you've imported them. So you got to import them into their final destination. So if I go into demo here, if I hit edit and then plus, I can pick which type of storage I put it in. I put it in my Dropbox. It will always land you in that root folder of your Dropbox, your iCloud, or your Google Drive. So that's why I suggested putting it in that root folder so that you're not having to navigate like 3 folders deep every time that you want to import, because unfortunately you have to import them one at a time. So I'll do the first one and then speed through these. So you can see the 3 paper templates that I created in Sketch are now in this. If I accidentally imported one twice, I can delete it. I can move them up and down. You can also rename them if you just tap on the page. You can give it whatever name you want, and there's some options down there. That's not really important right now. You'll notice down here you also have a toggle between paper and covers. So if I wanted to create some custom covers, which I've done, I like kind of having just a really simple square. Instead of having a bunch of landscape and portrait notebooks, I just wanted some square ones, so I created a bunch of just colors that I could color on. It's basically the first page in any notebook. So if you delete the page that's the cover, then the first page will appear. So now I have my custom ones. So now I can use those in a new notebook if I wanted to. So you'll see if I hit the paper here, I've got those pages there. Or if I have an existing one, so if I wanted to add a new page, I can now add those into my notebook. And so I'm going to add one of each so that you can kind of see how the size of the page impacts how you work on it. So this was our default size. And you'll notice in the pen tool, there's a max of what they call 10. So that's the biggest pen we can get. So I'm going to pick a bright color here. And so that's as big as we can get on this page. And as small as we can get down at 0.5 is super tiny. You can barely see it. Now if I go to the bigger piece, that's as big as it gets. So you can see the difference there. So your max size is much smaller if you make your resolution a lot higher versus the smaller one, you get a much thicker line. Lastly, I wanted to just share with you some of the templates I've found really useful. I've put a link in the description of the Dropbox folder where you can download them. Under Mockups, I use this Grid 6 landscape the most. What I like about it is you have room to draw, let's say a screen, and then you can write something about that screen underneath. So you can really kind of storyboard out a particular flow, whatever it happens to be that you're working on. There's also a full grid. One of the things that I like to do on this is to use the grid to mark things out really carefully. And then what you can do later is change the background to a plain piece of paper. So a horizontal blank, let's say. And that really kind of cleans it up so it looks like you didn't use kind of the cheat of having graph paper when you export it. So that's what I have for Goodnote tips about templates. Please leave comments, questions, suggestions, other tips. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope this was helpful. Bye.